fresh blood at last.
Could I get another advance, Mr. Nandi?
Just make sure it's properly logged.
I'll note it next to the others, sir. Greetings, and welcome to Monarch Stellar Industries, producers and purveyors of the finest salt tuna in Halcyon. What can I do for you?
Or is he not paying you on account of how he tried to fix the thing his own self and busted it even worse, and then said you wasn't fixing it fast enough, so... Not that I got any pride.
Not at all. Mr. Nandi treats us all right and pays us well. I just spent most of... I didn't have any choice. That's all Sebastian had in stock the... So I can talk to him, of course.
I reckon she's got a little bit of...
He's sort of the Strongs. Unfortunately, my apartment's kind of filling up with his stuff. And some of the neighbors... I couldn't. Hey, maybe you could ask him for me. I mean, a no would still be bad, but it won't be quite as embarrassing. Oh, Mr. Nandi's doing that thing where he breathes through his nose real slowly. He doesn't talk much, but he's got this quiet intensity, you know? Like there's stuff going on inside his head that you have no... Plus, he's got great legs. It's hard to find a man who doesn't skimp on low...
Good to have standards, I guess.
I know what I'm looking... You think that's what I'm looking for? You're funny. Not in Stellar Bay. Everyone else who isn't taken either smells like salt tuna or they're my boss. Besides, a man with a good... Sorry.
Well, new business. Celia, didn't I tell you our new statistics-based advertising model would be a hit?
That you did, sir.
How can yield improvements of 26.7% not quicken the pulse? How can 32% cost savings not moisten the loins?
What the f...
Often posed these very questions.
Clear my schedule.
You'd be a hit in Byzantium.
Did you hear that power play, Celia? They don't make them like this anymore in Halcyon. I only hope you don't judge me. Now, what... What a charming notion. One doesn't meet many free... Forgive me, I'd be positively enraptured. Only... Yes, that's it. Channel your anger.
Seems like you're having a rough time, Mr. Sanjar.
Oh, don't worry on my account. This is merely the latest in a long line of professional erotic and... I had hoped that livening up our advertisements with enticing figures would draw the other corporations back to our bosom, but... Surviving alone is... Thanks to the so-called hazard clause, Monarch has been cut off from the board's resources and protection for 10 years now. Now, we've kept ourselves in business by trading with individual corporations, but given the off-the-books nature of those transactions, such arrangements are precarious.
Exactly what I would have said, if I'd been paying attention.
You talk like Graham.
Freedom always sounds nice, doesn't it? It makes a rather pretty slogan. But if you sit down and tally up the costs, how you provide for yourself in the absence of aid, how you protect yourself from a hostile galaxy, it starts to lose its shine.
Well, Mr. Nandi here has a rather ingenious plan to get MSI restored to the board.
On our terms, mind you.
Ingenious plan? Don't get me wrong, I'm starting to admire your sand, but I bet you could overcomplicate a sisty sandwich.
What a charmingly roguish turn of phrase. Allow me to express my thanks at your confidence and assure you that my plan...
And if our advertising scheme hasn't borne fruit, then perhaps it's time we took matters into our own hands.
It's true, our Celia is an alarmingly competent middle manager. At any other company, she'd be waiting. The plan she refers to is a two-pronged approach, and the first part involves seeing Stella... With a Bolt 52 cartridge, of course. If you can get us what we need to rejoin the board, starting the Bolt 52, we'll be able to become one of the most productive and secure cities in Halcyon.
And you'll have a power...
Why, one of the strongest defenses in Halcyon?
Never realized fighting the bureau.
It is... I'll need to gather some supplemental materials, but...
You do...
The Bolt 52 will be in the old arms building southwest of town, which used to be part of Stella. And these days, it's... Do be careful. I've lost more than a few people to Murat. Oh, and while you're at it, there should be a terminal in the arms building with some dangerous information. Perhaps... What can I do? Hiram? Why, he's probably still out at Devil's Peak. Not that he's... You'd head south along the road and look for a mountain to the west. Not that I'd advise it. But if you insist on going, I'd recommend taking a look.
If you can keep...
Then it's good that I keep such meticulous... I've asked myself the same thing many times. Especially seeing as the legal mechanisms we employed were part of the... It's true, the board has treated us unfairly, but for many years this planet was home to as many corporations as Terra 2. But back then it was known as Terra 1. Really? I always thought they were refreshingly straightforward names. After all, the whole point of Terra...
Here, though, the results...
And as the other corporations began to tally their lot... MSI's leadership at the time, but there were others of us who saw an opportunity. The chance to improve working hours and conditions, to reform MSI... It's humane, but it's also good business sense. Exhausted, sick, and malnourished workers are not productive workers. Even a cursory review of the data bears that out.
I hope you'd treat them nice, whether it was good business or not, Mr. Sanjar. That's what being a community means. Treating people...
Like that's what you saw in Edgewater?
A noble thought, Miss Holcomb. Unfortunately, noble thoughts rarely sway board policy. Anyway, we learned of a loophole in the corporate bylaws that would allow MSI to claim ownership of the entire planet once the... creating the perfect environment for us to enact these... No, they laughed in our faces and insisted... In a manner of speaking... Many of us stayed behind, in an act of quiet but firm defiance. As the most senior executive remaining, I ended up in charge of...
Must have pissed off some real big suits to get stuck with that.
On the contrary, I wrote lots of very important reports on behalf of top MSI officials before I was able to achieve this position. I moved forward with our planned reforms, as well as our strategy to assume... Yet not long after I renamed it Monarch, the other corporations dislodged us from the board and began an official campaign to paint... But we weren't. Everything we did was legal and above board. We followed their rules. And yet, I do think there's something useful in a governing body like the board. Something that keeps us from anarchy, but it's a legal provision that gives the board the authority to cordon off any planet or location.
But wait, what happens to the folks stuck on the wrong side of danger?
Well, I'm afraid the welfare of a few hundred people is too minor a figure into the board's risk assessments. Yes, making all of MSI criminals in the board's eyes. Rather hard to run. Why wouldn't anyone? They own nearly all the resources and information.
If you can't beat him, might as well join him.
To be on the board is to be part of the colonial community, and being caught up. I'm not a man to put pride before progress. If membership on the board can ease our hardships and provide us with opportunities, then that's the path I mean to pursue. Besides, I'm hopeful that additional leverage on our part will allow us a more equitable relationship.
Don't get ahead of your...
Yes, it'll be easier to explain once we have the bolt. My hope is to maintain the reforms we've managed here, and who knows? He and his followers call themselves the Iconoclasts. Lawless anarchists, all of them. If anyone on Monarch deserves the reputation the board's pinned on us, it isn't just that they drain our people. Every radical act they commit cements Halcyon's image of us all as destructive rebels and pushes us further from the rest of the He's lucky the board doesn't take him seriously enough to keep more than a few UDL gunships patrolling Monarch.
An Earth Directorate assault cruiser would change his tune. It's almost a shame we haven't seen one around Monarch in a long while.
What can I do for you?
I hope your being here means the board is loosening their restrictions.
We're not the best equipped, but scouting for rats keeps us on our toes.
Velma seem out of sorts to you?
It's always cranky.
If Velma's capable of running the warehouse, she can certainly pick up her own cathanoid.
The brat's missing. She's working doubles and needs a little edge.
Very...
Got my sights on you.
Hello, dearie. Why, I don't believe I've seen you before.
Quite the bedside.
Well, it's so rare I get the pleasure. What can Auntie... She works over at the fishery next door. Why, just the other day, I heard her shouting from here. Oh, but here I go again, running my mouth when it's none of my business. Yes, indeed. Someone's got to... Oh, but I am. If Velma's capable of running... The warehouse...
Oh, guitar.